Prepare, respond, survive. When seconds count, train with the best. Fire facilities, custom steel towers built for real-world fire training. Be ready, be resilient.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of everyone's favorite podcast, everyone's favorite radio show, everyone's favorite live auction. We've got a couple great cows back in the back that we can't wait to get rid of. Someone asked years ago, where's the beef? And let me tell you folks, we've got it. But before we get to that, let me introduce our host, our fearless leader, the one you know, the one you love, the one you're probably in legal action against. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, retired Deputy Chief of Training and all-around great firefighter, Larry Conley. This is where we insert the applause.
Thank you. And we're back.
And we're back.
We're back. Blessed to be back. Man, it's been a long summer. St. Louis had a long spring and summer. We had a nice tornado that came through here back in May, and man, I'm telling you, it tore up some stuff here in the St. Louis area, and we're still recovering. Yeah, we're still recovering from that. And I was blessed to work down at the Emergency Operations Center for a while with logistics with our city and state emergency management associations, agencies. Excuse me. And then FEMA came in and got to meet some great people with that. And so it's going to be about a 10-year cleanup for all of this.
Oh,
and
wow.
It hit some pretty good neighborhoods and some pretty affluent neighborhoods. And then it really tore through a neighborhood that wasn't so affluent, not too far from where Dave and I grew up, and definitely where I went to high school. My high school, the building itself is not even open this year because of the damage. They had to move the students to another location. So that's how bad it was. So been through some stuff. There's some tragic results from as far as deaths and loss of property and all of that. But still blessed. And just still continue to pray. I say, bring it up, excuse me, because I want you to continue to pray for people. I know when it comes out of the news cycle, new stuff get into the news cycle, we tend to forget. And if you don't live here, it's easy to forget. But we live here, so we can't forget because it's here. And you see the devastation even to this day when you drive through some of the neighborhoods. Some of these houses will never be the same. Some of these structures will never be the same. You got to tear it down and start over. And like I said, some of these neighborhoods who had a certain, the neighborhood that got hit the hardest is what we call the Ville neighborhood. And historically, it was always a very popular neighborhood back in the day with a lot of industry and a lot of working people. The Ville went through a lot of economic depression. So it was like we really didn't need the tornado to hit the Ville. And when it recovers, it probably won't look like the Ville we once knew. But hopefully the planners can salvage something so that the great lifelong residents of the Ville can have a chance to stick around and enjoy the place where they call home. So just continue to pray for St. Louis in that regard. And you know, people laugh about, you can have your different opinions about climate change and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, but it just looks like every day we get numb to like there's a new storm or a new tsunami or a new something that tends to hit and damage and wash, rinse, repeat kind of deal. So it's just kind of weird. But so pray for everyone who has been through it and maybe one day go through it and all of the above. But we've had some great first responders with boots on the ground, making sure that things are, mitigated to the best of our ability. So continue. As of this recording, David and I will be soon heading out to do another glue presentation with our good friends up in East Dubuque, Illinois, which is right across the river from Dubuque, Iowa. And it kind of reminds me of what we do here in St. Louis. You got St. Louis, Missouri, and East St. Louis, Illinois. So and the mighty Mississippi separates all that. So we'll be heading up and spending our weekend with the great folks there. So probably by the time everything airs here, we'll have that done and hopefully left an impression with our Glue Personal Leadership product. One of the products we use is called Rescuing the Leader Inside of You. And there's a leader in everyone. You just got to decide kind of you want a leader to be and where does that fit into whatever your hopes and dreams of this great thing we call the fire service. So anyway, so we're excited to be back on the road doing that, in the air, on the road. I think David ties in that we're going to have to drive up because, they don't have a huge place to land in that area. So we're going to drive up and turn on some funky music and maybe some cool podcasts and hit the road and stop at. My favorite thing on the road is to stop at those truck stops. My favorite is Love's, and this is not an endorsement for Love's. The stuff I'm saying now is not an endorsement from Fire Engineering. It's the Uncle Larry personal brand. But if I see a Love's truck stop or Buc-ee's, but Buc-ee's ain't all. I love Buc-ee's, man. I can. I wait. Sometimes I don't want to stop at Buc-ee's because if I got a dead line to get there at 8:30. Buc-ee's gonna make me get there at 9:35 because I'm just walking around buying beef jerky and Buc-ee treats and using those clean bathrooms. I tell you, it's quite the experience if you have never done it before. At Buc-ee's, Buc-ee's is so big that they'll say Buc-ee's in 600 miles. There's Buc-ee's like wow, you're going, and all of a sudden. Exactly. Then all of a sudden I use the bathroom. I see Buc-ee's. Can't nobody say Buc-ee's. I got to pee. It's weird. Think about those nice clean bath. And then there are bathroom attendants and they're waiting for you to finish so they can come in and clean up for the next person. It's an amazing operation, But if you can't get to a Buc-ee's, I love my Loves. And Loves always got like weird stuff that I don't need, but I want to buy. Like I don't need this 1,000-foot charging cord for my iPhone. But I like it. So,
you never know when it's going to come in handy.
Never know when it's going to come in handy. And somehow it does, it comes in handy.
I think they were going to hire some bathroom attendants at Love's, but then they thought the position and the name going together would be probably not good for the business. So then they cut them.
Right. Not Love's in the bathroom. It's not. No. We don't need any Loves in the bathroom. It wouldn't be a family show if you did that. Right. I'm not taking my kids in that bathroom.
That's right, exactly.
But nonetheless, that's some of my favorite things of being on the road is odd places like that to where you just go in and meet interesting people, see interesting things, and buy interesting food and get strong coffee to keep you going while you're on the road. So we always have a good time on the road. I'm kind of like I thought I was alone in it, but Bobby Halton, Billy Goldfeder, I've had conversations with them about that. And Billy, I had him in teaching for us one day. And, I thought Billy was going to fly. And Billy said, no, if it's within 6 hours or so, he drives, he wants to rather drive. Bobby rather drive, it's just crazy. So I could feel him on that. If it's within striking distance, I'd rather drive because I like being on the road. I fly for convenience, but I like to, I like the road. So it's a great time. But anyway, today we have our esteemed guest, Stone Cold. Oh no, that's not. That's the next show. This is just DJ Stone, So, right. But on the ones and twos. So he's gonna do a monster mash mix.
Right. Hey, I am a drummer in real life.
Right. Okay.
Eddie nothing else.
Eddie Buchanan is a drummer too. If you didn't know that,
nothing else.
Eddie Buchanan both like Morris Day, so we always send each other Morris Day clips and stuff. So, but our special guest is DJ Stone and David. I'm not going to call him David because my brother's named David. And if I say David, then now I'm on both of them saying, huh? That could be kind of confusing for the show.
And it's been years since I was a DJ. Let me just be honest with you.
Right. So anyway, and then, I didn't want to polarize things like saying, Black David and White David. That might offend people. I don't know. The climate is so.
It don't offend me.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be careful. So it's going to be DJ and David. How about that? Keep it, So, but nonetheless, we got DJ on. Now, let me tell you what inspired me for getting DJ Stone on, Dr. Stone. Is that two things. DJ and his brother Shannon, I'm part of the Muddy Rivers Fools, and it's probably one of the best chapters in America, probably the world, if I'm being honest. But anyway, I'm supposed to say that, and it's probably true. But anyway, but seriously, they came to town a few years ago and did a presentation for us. I'm gonna tell you, they left quite an impression, and since then, I've been kind of loosely following them and seeing what they do and all that, because they made quite an impact on the St. Louis region and me personally, in beautiful downtown Collinsville, Illinois, a few years ago. But recently, DJ posted something, since I follow DJ, and I was kind of impressed with his take on taking on the position of being a training officer. And so quick, how I feel about this training officer thing is this, and having been one, and how I felt before even that whole thing. So as a firefighter in the street, and even after I got promoted, even though I clinically understood it, it wasn't always something that I had a lot of respect for, if I'm being honest. I just thought these were a bunch of guys who couldn't do the job. They down there, they just throwing paperwork out to the people, firehouses, and they trying to check boxes and stuff like that, and that kind of deal. And so when we get stuff coming down from headquarters, we're like, oh, we gotta do this training. Okay, let's do the training, and then let's make sure we check the box and whatever. And that was kind of the attitude. Of course, the more I started teaching and being part of the fire engineering family and teaching on my own, and being part of the International Society of Fire Service Instructors and all that. And then when I started teaching at the college, at the community college, then it started taking on a whole new kind of identity of how serious training is. And then it was like, okay, well, the more you invest in it, the better your department is. And if you invest in it right, or make it creative, or make it effective, then you might get more buy-in from the people on the track, because the people on the track tend to think, I know it all. Well, I got to do this stupid training. But as the training officer, you realize there is a bigger picture. It's not just about the training, but it's about, ISO ratings, and it's about, NFPA compliance, and a bunch of other stuff that is necessary, that the admin has to worry about. So now, fast forward to when I become the training chief in Collinsville, Illinois. Now I'm getting a crash course in understanding that not only you have to do the practical work for the psychomotor part of it, but you definitely have to address the cognitive work as well. And so the cognitive, psychomotor, and ensure the boxes are checked to keep your agency in compliance. But that's quite the juggling act to do. It reminds me of the old variety show where you spinning the plate, and you got to keep all the plate, and then you can't drop the plate, because any plate that you drop, might be the critical plate you need to keep things afloat. And it was kind of my inspiration for writing our latest thing out of the glue world, is tightrope. And tightrope talks about that balance between efficiency and effectiveness of what you need to do at your agency's headquarters, and what's effective in the street, and how both of those things critically intertwine to make you have a complete experience with your fire service. So So now I can intimately understand the value of a good training program, a good training, a motivated training chief or a training officer, or whatever that looks like in your department, and how important it is. But a lot of times people are just thrown into the position. You're the training chief. Make it happen. So now you got this kind of willy-nilly, I don't know, hit or miss type of roadmap, and you really aren't going anywhere. You might be going too fast the wrong way. You might not be going fast enough somewhere else, and you're just not, as consistent or as effective as you need to be. So anyone who has a book, article, anything like that, these things can be critical. Or if you got mentors, they can be critical in making sure that you get things on the right track. A lot of things that, I did when I was in that position is I didn't try to reinvent the wheel. I called a lot of the experts that were friends of mine. And it's too many names, so I won't get started naming because that'll take up the rest of the show. But I would just call them. I had on speed dial. I would call them and get their advice and hey, don't reinvent the wheel. Take my stuff, take my letterhead off of it, put yours on it, make it personal to your particular agency and have at it. And you, and the payoff is you do that for somebody else. So there was a whole nice little enclave of family in the training officer cadre there. And I really enjoyed that part of that kind of support. So, but like I said, I was really intrigued by reading what DJ Stone was talking about, Chief Stone was discussing. And he talked about, 5 steps, and 5 steps we're going to cover tonight. Surveying the land, passion is power, aim it wisely. Earn the respect is first, is number 3. And number 4, play the long game. And number 5, don't go it alone. And with those points, I talked to him. I said, hey, you want to discuss those points in more detail? Because it's one thing to read them, but it's one thing to hear straight from the horse's mouth. And I was very happy. He was just a stone's throw away. So that was, if I may. No pun, pun intended. No.
All week, folks. Thank you.
These jokes are they free. You might pay for the podcast, but these jokes are free. I'll tell you.
Worth every penny. Let me tell you.
Yeah, worth every penny. But anyway, DJ Stone is a dedicated 24-year emergency service. Currently serves as the division chief of training for the South Walton Fire District in Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. But that sounds exotic, I tell you. He retired in 2022 from the city of Fort Walton Beach, Florida Fire Department, where he held the position of Line Battalion Chief. A second-generation firefighter, Stone spends his last 3 years as the battalion chief. Fort Walton Battalion Chief. He's an experienced instructor. He has taught at conferences across the Southeast, the Midwest, including FDIC. And Stone runs a local training Facebook page, 850 Firemen. Is 850 the area code or something?
Yep. The region. Yep.
Right. Okay. And with his brother, Midway Fire Chief Shannon Stone, DJ holds certifications as a Florida Fire Pump Operator, Fire Operator 2, LFTI. Explain what that means. Hazmat Technician and State 1 Instructor. Quite the resume, Mr. Stone. And thank you for being on the show today, my friend. Any opening remarks before we get started? Hitting you with these scripted questions that my brother made me write.
No, man, I'm just grateful to be asked to be on you guys' show. Obviously you guys been doing a long time, one of the originals, so, and you're funny, and I just feel like it's going to be a good time having a frank discussion about training, man. I'm just grateful to kind of hang out and chat with you guys.
Cool. What inspired you to write these 5 steps?
Well, I've been in a transition, obviously, off the line to where I'm at now in the last couple of years. And last couple of years, I've committed to try to writing more. I'm a creative by nature. I'm a musician, do some art and building in that. And so writing is one of these things. As I get older, I don't have time for those things, but maybe I have some more time for writing. Mm-hmm. In light of that, moving to this position, I'm actively, like you said in the beginning, looking for different things, looking for advice on how to do this better. The department I'm involved in now is about 110 or so strong on the ground. And right now it's just me, and I'm trying to figure it out. And the good thing is I had a really good training chief before me that I knew, that was a friend. He set things up for success. The organization is in a paradigm shift of motivation right now. And it really just jived with my passion and kind of where I'm at. So in light of this journey, I'm looking around and I found some resources. I think Dave McGlynn had us a book on training. Mm-hmm. It's actually a really great book. That's a really good resource. Mm-hmm. But the more I dug, the more I just couldn't find things. It was all in different places, right? Nothing is right here. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of coming out of this journey of looking and trying to find more that's specific to my position, because you're right. A lot of times this position is downplayed or forced into in some organizations, and it's not taken that seriously. But I take it very seriously, because I feel like I have an influence on a culture, an entire department, and I have a huge burden to bear to make sure that these guys know the job well, get reps in that job in the most realistic manner possible. And thirdly, operate safely, and it's every position I moved up into the job, I felt the weight of that. My brother was a huge inspiration and a mentor to me, and he's always put that weight on my shoulders on purpose. So coming into this, it's no different. Mm-hmm. And the article, which there's more to it, this is somewhat compressed. I just felt like were the 5 maybe most key things that I picked up over the last 2 years, and I'm still learning. This is just what I've got up to now. And I blinked and it's 2.5 years. Yeah. It doesn't feel like it. Like you said, I'm not going to say I'm swamped, but I'm so busy in a different way that I did not train for before I got here. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is this. I'm very much an operational mindset. I'm very much an instructor. I always have been. As an officer up, I've always taken opportunity to try to teach and to share and to mentor, et cetera. As a battalion, I did some administration, right? I did some things. Mm-hmm. When I got to this position, I realized real quick where I'm weak, and I'm probably harder on myself than maybe those around me. Mm-hmm. But all I'd say, I found some gaps, and there's a lot of things that I feel I could have done better. These things I feel like are the things that maybe have worked out, because at this point it's been a pretty positive journey. Mm-hmm. And the feedback that I have received has been predominantly positive. And the ones that haven't been positive, they've been constructive. So that's a huge win. When you can get feedback that's not sarcastic, that's not rooted in some sort of jab, and that's constructive, I find that to be energizing and a huge win when you're trying to get better at what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. No, that's a good point.
Yeah. You got somebody who's open to the growth on both ends. You able to take the constructive criticism, and then somebody who's willing to actually give you, like you said, criticism or what you might say, a critique more than criticism, in a way that's not trying to belittle you, put you down, but actually make you better. And so when those two things come together, you can't help but improve. And so that's a really good thing anyway.
You have to, right? If you're that's part of being humble, that's part of being able to see your blind spots. And we'll talk a little bit more kind of that path. But one of the things that I've done in this organization, I did in my old organization. And honestly, if it's done right, I think it's the most valuable tool out there for improvement is the 360 evaluation, something that's anonymous. Give the guys an opportunity to tell you without feeling awkward.
Right.
Most people aren't going to be straight to your face. Mm-hmm. And even me at times, being from the South, everything's got to be said a little nicely. What I've learned from my friends up north is they're allowed to be direct because that's the culture they live in. Get to the point, be direct, and it's received, not the same down here. And so in light of that, I really value that feedback, but you get ready, to potentially get your feelings hurt, right?
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that.
No, especially in the fire service world, because they'll tell it like it is,
Yeah.
So step one, you got surveying the land. So why is it tempting for new leaders to rush in with changes?
Why is it tempting for new leaders to rush in with changes? Well, I think we come into this job, especially when you're coming from an outside organization into a new organization, and you could quickly size it up, right? You could quickly size up what people do well, and then it's always easier to find criticism, and it's always easier to find where people aren't doing so well. So, it's tempting for people to come in and offer all of these ideas. But right off the front, let me just say this: perception is reality. Would you agree with that? How we project. So if I'm coming into a new organization with all this energy, and maybe they hired me to be there, but I'm just wanting to thrust 15 ideas on you, it's going to shut people down. And you're going to be perceived as arrogant. You're going to be perceived as a know-it-all, especially coming from a different organization, especially, one that is maybe busier or whatever you fill in the blank, right? You going from St. Louis to the department you were at, Larry, I'm sure, people were measuring you up and they were listening to you. So it could be a double-edged sword, right? And so I think in light of that, we have to be careful about how we come through the door. We have to understand right up front, what is the expectation expected of me? So one of the first things I did the first week I was there off of my orientation, if you will, I went straight to my operations chief, because if you're in training division, that should be your guy. My mission is to carry out what the operation chief wants to happen in that district. I'm very lucky to work for a guy that does not micromanage me, right? And he lets me come in and do me. It's been a great experience, but I have to have some form of expectation in order to meet it. So one of the first things I asked him when I got there, I said, okay, I need to know something. He's like, all right, go ahead. I said, I need to know one of two things. What is it that you want in the organization? Do you want ISO compliance, or do you want realistic, training? And before I could even finish, he said, realistic all day long, 100%. That's why we brought you here. He said, however, ISO is in view. And what I mean by that is we're going to have to get better at that too, because that matters. At least in our department, that little number on the side of a truck or an organization matters. And as we grow, we need to be, in other words, we need to be a bit more organized. We need to be a bit more specific, administratively speaking. And he gave me a little bit of expectations, but I feel like you got to be right up front. Once you have that, then you could temper all the change that you see needs to happen and maybe map it out very slowly.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what did you discover about yourself while observing first?
Well, for this organization, had a reputation, right? We all have reputations. Mm-hmm. Whatever organization you work in is going to come with a reputation. Overall, this organization, South Walton, had a very good reputation, but they were a very young department. And what we say up here in the panhandle of Florida, we're very different than the other guys at the bottom of the state. It's two worlds here, right? And so they were a model. They were one of the first in our region to do fire-based EMS. Their model was very much modeled after a South Florida model. That's what they called it. So with that comes some assumptions, right? And at the time, years ago, it wasn't a whole lot of people living there. It's a vacation destination. This is 25 years ago, 30 years ago now. And over the years, it had a reputation of, oh, they're just EMS transport. Oh, they don't go to fires. They don't do this. They're not into the job. They're scared to go inside, all these things. Not that I believed it, but right, that's the reputation. So I came in and with assumptions that, man, I got a lot of work. These guys, I'm going to have to show them a thing or two. Not that I come from Job Town, but where I worked in the little suburban urban area on the coast was your typical lower class middle place. So we got some work and we did some things. And I had this assumption. The point is I had this assumption. And I had no idea when I got to this organization, the level of depth, the level of enthusiasm, the level of change. Man, I can't even think about the descriptive words of the positive advancing atmosphere of these guys. They're just hungry. And they were hungry to change that perception of an EMS-based service to, hey, man, we are into the job. We want to go to fires. And it just so happens in the last 5 years, they went from relatively unknown vacation destination pre-COVID to now we're documenting 6 million visitors a year. That's quite a bit. There's weekends and pockets along the coast that have urban density, right? What that equates to, population, is a direct correlation to increased work. And so these guys have been getting some jobs, man, a pretty good fair amount, and they're stepping up that game. So what did I discover about myself? I discovered about myself coming into this job, like, hey, don't make assumptions on what you see, right? We know this. And I wasn't being overly critical but if I'm being honest, and I know the guys where I work are going to watch this. Yeah, I had some I wouldn't say some negative connotation. And I was pleasantly surprised about how that is not that way. And I said, you know what? I need to just try my best in life, not just in the fire service, not to make these judgments. Stop, observe, be quiet, watch, take it in, and give everyone that fair chance at 100%, right? And make up my own mind and stop listening to people around me who may have opinions, but they really don't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kind of wrapping up the surveying the land part, how did you identify informal leaders and resistors early on?
So one of the first things that I did, I didn't do, they took me around what I was going to do anyways, is to go, we cover 84 square miles. We have 5 stations, a 6th in the making right now. We have 6 apparatus and 6 other, like 5 ambulances and another one. So the point is quite a few people. And this is a medium-sized organization where I'm at. We don't have a lot of large city departments. Mobile, Alabama, Tallahassee would be your closest, and then Atlanta, maybe Montgomery or Birmingham. But anyhow, most departments are small here. So I knew that I had to get around and not only meet everybody, but in that meeting, I was very intentional. I am watching the room and I'm reading who is what, where. Because in my opinion, if I could capture the guys that have the influence and win them to my side and to my passion and to my enthusiasm and to the things that I want to do in the organization, that's my ticket. That's my ticket to a lot of things. And a lot of times those are the officers. And so each officer, I just made sure to ask questions, be observant, work on my body language and my communication, all these things in order to establish an early rapport. Okay. And the ones who are dissenters, I think, are obvious, isn't it? You come in, they're like this. Right?
The whole time.
They're just watching you. Like body language just speaks volumes. So I would come in and I would scan the room and I'm looking at body language on guys. And if people are a little bit hesitant, I try to say something to disarm them. I try to self-deprecate for people who feel like, oh, this guy comes from over there and he's going to say this and this, so he's going to criticize us. No, I mean, I make mistakes.
Right.
I work overtime. I overtalk. I overshare. Right. And so in light of that, I'm a very authentic, transparent person. I'm the same dude talking to you right now that I'm going to be at work. I'm going to be at church on Sunday, that I'm going to be anywhere, and I just found that when I identified those people, I just made mental notes and I made some written notes that, and I discovered what they do in the organization. I tried to extract that out of them. Even the senior guys who are maybe less motivated, I tried to key in, hey, what do you want to do? I want to know what you know about this organization.
Right.
I don't know about your organization. I need to know more about where you were 20 years ago to now. And I'm not trying to change that. You know, I'm trying to get you back involved with that thing to make it better than it was before. That connection, you know?
Yeah, that could be a challenge. That could be challenging. A lot of times the younger guys, they're a little more hungry. They're easier to get to adapt to things because they still get their energy. A lot of times the older guys or experienced guys get a little set in their ways, and you know I've seen a million of you before, and they come and go, or whatever their mentality or their experience has been. And some of it is probably validated based on their experience. But like you said, you got to kind of read the room and try to get buy-in in different ways of your approach, whether it's young or experienced guys.
Some of them is I get that you got to break through that jaded, mentality. A lot of that is that jaded thing, the jaded vision sitting in, and so
that's very true. And depending on where the organization was or where it's coming from, right? That could be, my organization was on an upswing. What if I'm coming into organization on the downswing? You know what I mean? That's frustrated. They have poor leadership, poor management, a perception that nobody cares for them. I came from a city to a district, two very different worlds. Very different. Like, I hate to say it, I love the city because I grew up there. Like, I have roots there. My dad retired from the neighboring department. I worked with my brother. Like, I grew up riding bikes on the streets like you guys. Like, I literally responded to the neighborhoods I lived in. It was very personal. But at the end of the day, towards, one of the factors of me leaving that city is I was a number, right? Even though some of these people I grew up with, I knew the city manager in high school, but he left. When he left, I don't know. It was one of those, you lost the sense of value. So trying to change people like that, you just got to be patient and be real with them and understand where they're at, I think, and try not to downplay their experiences, even if it's something you disagree with. Don't let them know. Focus on that positive thing that you can pull out of them instead of trying to change that negative.
No, you're right about that. You said step 2, passion is power. So can passion outpace timing? Any examples?
Absolutely, it can. I mean, I think you can just look at the internet in the fire service right now. You could just float around a few different social media pages, right, to see some examples. But my direct example in my old organization was I was pretty enthusiastic officer when I got promoted to company officer. And when I did, there was a guy named Theron Shipman. And I'm proud to say right now he is the current fire chief. In fact, he's the first African-American fire chief in my city and a close friend of mine. And I'm just super proud of where he's at now. But I will never forget this one thing that he said to me, because I'm one of those guys, I go home, I'm looking at fire porn, right? I'm reading articles, I'm going to conferences. You get caught up in that, in that passion and trying to pursue more of that. That was me. I come back, I get promoted. I'm like, I'm going to set some standards, right? The first thing you want to do is, you're going to level everybody up and you're trying to motivate them and you're trying to demand more from them. And it was a mistake that I just didn't catch. So I'm demanding from these guys, right? And he was, I can't remember at the time, might have been one of the apparatus operators, senior man. And we were at a junkyard doing extrication training, and it was a few hours and we got done. And I used to give these kind of like motivational speech things or whatever. I still do. Get on your soapbox, right? I was doing that. We got to be into the job. When you go home, you should really look at this because it matters for those who serve and all that. So I get done, and Theron says, hey man, can I just say something? And I said, yeah, of course. He said, hey man, I'm just not into the job like that, like you are. And he says, honestly, when I go home, I've learned to cut it off. I go home and I just shut it off. He says, that's just not what I look at or what I do. He says, I don't do that, and I'm not going to do that. However, this is what I'm going to promise you. I'm going to promise you that every shift I come in, you'll have 100% of me 100% of the time until I go home. You'll have 100% of my enthusiasm, my pursuit of the job. I'll be into it and all those things. He's like, but when I go home, man, I shut it off. And I hadn't done that at this point in my career. And man, that was a pivotal moment. I can't say that I completely shut it off when I go home because it's just my DNA. That's just who I am. I'm not going to deny that, but that was my first step into balancing my life on this job and not letting this passion overrun me, which therefore affected my family and my kids and alienated friends around me. You ever done that before? I have. In a sense, I was alienating him. But he was strong enough to say, hey, man, I'm a friend with you. I'm just going to be straight and tell you straight. Not disrespectfully, but I'm not going to do that. But this is what I promise. And I use that example. I can't tell you how many times at this current organization. I'm like, all I'm asking you guys to do is when you're here for 48 hours, we do 48.96. Just give me the very best of what you have for this 40. Just be into it. When you have some downtime, I'm asking you to look at social media, get involved with training groups. Our department is very good about paying you to go to anywhere you want, including FDIC. You want to go? You got an educational budget, do it. So I'm constantly encouraging guys to go to conferences. We have Kurt stuff like right in our backyard 5 times a year. I'm like, hey, go Atlanta, Orlando, everywhere. But, I think we have a way that if we don't temper that passion, it's wielded in a negative manner, even with our best intentions. With our best intentions, we push people away and they're going to start tuning you out. They're going to start closing that door, and we can't get pissed off. We can't get irritated because we're not recognizing how we're communicating and then how that's alienating people because we're so righteous on this mission, right? To get everyone on this bus and everyone to be a top shelf fireman. They're not going to be that. Not everybody's going to be that. So the question I'll ask you, and then I'll ask everybody else is, well, what's good enough? Like really rhetorical. What's good enough? I get these posts. I see it all the time on social media. I get it. And then I go, well, like John Nolan says, it depends. So here's what a lot of people say, minimum standard is one step above the worst thing on the planet. You ever heard of that? Like, oh, you meet a minimum standard. That's not enough. I'm going, well, if you come to my organization and you come to where I used to work, our minimum standard is way above people else. So to me, that statement doesn't make sense. But people are fueled by that because we have so many turds on the job, right? We have so many people that are just slugs. But we need to stop dividing people like this, in my opinion, with this passion. We need to stop categorizing these people. You can't fix them and screw you and, don't be the target and whatever you want to say, man. Like, no, temper that back. Think about how we're communicating these things. Let's allow our passion to affect people in a positive manner, to look at the job a little differently. And if you're not into it, okay, that's fine. That's fine. Just meet whatever the bare minimum of your organization is. That is the job of accountability at that point. But outside of the job, I see this so much. I see this, and I'm going to jump ahead a little bit, but it ties right into it. This passion used as a weapon sometimes, right? And it's like this, I've came back from this conference and, I'm going to slam everybody with everything that I know. And, you don't know anything because I listen to this guy from here and that guy from there, and I have all these ideas. What happens? You get pigeonholed. Well, I mean, we got to own some of our behavior, and that's what I'm trying to say. That's where our passion is, we got to know how to communicate that to people, to bring them along on the ride and not push them away. Unfortunately, I feel like in some circumstances, as an observer of social media, not even in fire service, just in culture, right? So much division. There's so much weaponization of passion, putting people on the sidelines, man, and putting people in camps, and you see it in culture, and then you start to see it creeping into the fire service. And I'm on my soapbox right now, but I'm here to protect against that. I do not want the fire service to turn into this culture that's around us in the world right now, the left and the right and the this and the that, No, we can agree to disagree peaceably. One of the guys that Larry, really well. I'm wearing his hat tonight. From St. Louis, Greg Redmond. I love that guy, and here's why I love that guy. He thinks very differently than me. He also has a passion, and he's analytical. He's a different personality. In real life, we couldn't be further apart politically. I'm talking opposite ends, but that doesn't matter. We know that, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. Like that's not the focal point, and that's not the value that I get out of our relationship. The value I get is Greg's experiences, and perhaps vice versa. I don't know, but he still talks to me, even though I voted for Trump or whatever the case is. Right? We're still friends.
Yeah.
I don't want to allow that to get into the fire service, and I feel like sometimes our passion for forms of change, our passion for the different parts of the job lead to criticism, lead to the job being black or white. I got to have an answer. It's either this way or this way. And I saw another guy saying, I've been saying it for years, we are experts in the gray. There's very little things that are black and white in fire service, but everyone, that's that passion that is just claiming I have it right here or there, or, suburban guys suck, the urban guys are, the best, or the rural guys don't know anything, or the volleys this. All that are different forms of passion, and we have to figure out how to communicate, and use that passion to bring people in to what we're trying to achieve.
That makes sense. A lot of that too is about is communicated through what they used to say, seeing a sermon, walking, and so how you model passion as a person. One of the things that Larry and I teach in our course is about, personal leadership, but that better people, make a better fire service and make a better world. And so a lot of people will try to pigeonhole their passion into where that passion is just showing up in their job, in their vocation, and everywhere else, just we'll just shove all that stuff in the closet or whatever. And so I think if people got to improving or having a passion for improving themselves as people, and we connect on the fact that you're passionate, I'm passionate, then we can get to what we're passionate about. But just the passion itself to be a better person, I think a lot of this stuff gets reconciled, and a lot of that communication across any of those, what you might say, lines gets easier. But I just feel like people can definitely bring 110% to the job if they're a person whose passion is excellence in waxing their car, in showing up, you know what I mean? Just period. If you have that, the minute you think it's something you put on when you get to the job and take off when you get from the job, you're going to run into some problems then when you have that kind of disconnected thinking,
Just to piggyback on that, that makes me think about, one, what the public expect the firefighters to be, right? And whether you like it or not, that is directly connected to ethics, morals, your character, the stuff you're talking about, right? And those are the things that we need to protect. You're absolutely right. Like I'm thinking right now in our conversation, I'm looking at the fire service, but it's true. One of the things that, I try to do is I'm mentoring guys' personalities. I asked my chief, probably about 6 months ago. I had a couple guys, I'm a believer, a Christian in that, and had a couple guys approach me and they knew it. Hey man, you should, we'd like you to do a Bible study or whatever. And I'm like, I'm a little busy my first year here. I really don't have the time. I'm into it, whatever. Fast forward, I asked my chief and I said, hey, I want to do like a leadership study, but it's Maxwell's 21 Laws of Leadership based on the Bible. So it's got a little bit of that faith in there, but it's not that alienating faith. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's some relational. We're going to learn about leadership, but I'm going to let my personality and my belief system kind of trickle in there. And so I said, I'm not asking to do it on duty. I don't want to do it on duty. I'm going to come on my day off. And I'm not asking for, anybody to get paid. I'm just asking to use the facilities so I can come and do this and host it and drive into work. And the guys on duty can make it. And then we could do this. He said 100%, whatever you need to do, man, you got it. So that's what I do. The point of that story is I use that, thinking about what you just said, David, I use that to try to build guys' character, try to build their moral, try to set that early foundation. I got firefighters, battalion chiefs, company officers, all the levels in the meetings that I have. It's every other week. We cover a chapter. But in that, I'm working on that character piece because you're right. If you don't have that, you have nothing. And in this position, if you think you're going to come in here and you think you don't have a reputation or people don't know you, you're fooled. I don't care if I went to California, you know what they would do? They would look up Fort Walton Beach. They would look up that local number and they would call straight to that union. Hey, tell me about Stone. Then they would call somebody who knows me near that area. Tell me about that guy. So a reputation is based off of the things that you said. And that's what I'm trying to do is not only teach at work as my job, but hopefully start raising up guys through I would say unintentional mentorship.
Yeah.
I'm not targeting it on purpose, but that's what I'm doing, trying to get early, because if you don't have that foundation, you're broke. Yeah. Your job expertise will never outweigh the respect of character and morals, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, David and I we believe that passionately, since we're talking about passion, and that's one of the main core reasons we even do our group personal leadership. And the reason we just want to call it leadership, that was never the vision. The vision was always personal leadership, because we thought having that foundational roadmap, building from the inside out, and really focusing on that, not just saying a blanket leadership. Because a lot of times leadership classes I've been to would be classes that would say, here's how you manipulate Fred at work, or here's how you can 103 ways to be this kind of person, or something like this type of leader. These are the type of leader people want, and all these techniques and things like that. We wanted to go beyond that, and going beyond that ended up turning into what we do now, building that from the inside out. And a lot of people were early adapters on that, because it felt like I want some quick, fast, in a hurry. What do I do to fix this particular person or whatever? Right. And they weren't looking in the mirror enough to fix themselves and become that, as David and I say in our presentation sometimes, be more of a sermon walking than you are a sermon talking. And because
that's good.
Because when people, it's a human thing that nobody can get around, no matter how much you try. If you're in the store one day and you see somebody, a guy maybe similar to your build, but I mean, skin is glowing, muscles popping, doing, whatever.
I mean, basically Dave Conley, right?
Right. Yeah. But you look at that and you say to yourself, and maybe you strike up a conversation. One of the things you might ask is like, what do you do for your workout?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they say I do this, and the third, and you say, okay, well, maybe I need to try some of that because I'm working out or I want to get better or whatever, and you do it. But it wasn't. But you're not going to ask the person who doesn't look like you want to look. You're going to ask the person, or you're not going to ask the person who doesn't look in shape but is busy trying to tell you how to get in shape. It just doesn't match. You're going to be drawn to the person who is the sermon walking instead of one that's talking. So my point is, as firefighters, we need to make sure that our passion is not so much of what our online profile is, or our online personality is, or being able to criticize and point out somebody else's faults or something like that and try to puff yourself up. The main thing is, like you said, 100% I put that work in. And when I come to work, I give it 100%. That is going to show. When your company, everybody adopts that, then you'll be the company that when your battalion chief knows that you're on the way, they know everything is going to be okay when your company gets there, because these guys and gals on that apparatus, they take care of business. And you also know the ones that don't.
Yeah,
the ones who do show up first and be first in, because the nerdy wheels that show up and be first in gonna goof up the whole fire. And I used to say that when I was teaching at the academy. I said, when you show up first and you size up right and you deploy right and you make the right decisions, then everyone who shows up after you complements your decision. They build on that foundation. But if you goof that up, then we spend the rest of the fire compensating for how you goofed up in the first place. So you got to get it. You got to get it right. But you can't do that if you sold out to the brand of being a great firefighter, but you're not doing that from the inside out. What are you doing when nobody's? What are you doing when nobody's? We got the most trusted, dangerous job in the world. People trust us to come in their house. If it's $1,000 on the dresser, it better be $1,000 when they leave. That's the integrity of it. When it's time to go in and save somebody, just like you said, you and Redmond, two opposite ends of political constructs, two different understandings of what you want to believe. But I can't show up somewhere and say that person has different political beliefs, so I'm not going in to get them. Or vice versa. We go get everybody, even if there's a known violator of the law of some sort. We got to go get them, because that's what we get paid to do. Or if you work for a volunteer, that's what you don't get paid to do.
That's your commitment, though. Yeah,
that's your commitment. That's your passion. And to kind of wrap it up, to balance what you were saying, I like what the guy said, because look, if they come to work to do 100% and you get that at work, then likely, I don't know them, but likely when they go home, they give it 100% too. They get home, they wife, their kids, their household, community, their grass, their car, their roof, 100% of their person at home, and they're not preoccupied with what's going on at the fire station. And you don't want somebody at the fire station preoccupied with what's going on at home, which is another reason David and I wrote this, is because we were seeing where personal leadership and professional leadership was clashing in the intersection and was creating this mess of a person. And it also creates these climates for what? The number one killers is suicide in the fire service. That clash and intersection, you know where to go. The next one is heart attacks, because you don't have an end vision about your health and that kind of stuff. Then you're probably not taking care of yourself as well. And you go from sleep to the bell hit to down the pole to in your stuff and crawling down the burning hallway within 5 to 7 minutes. Your heart is still asleep. Like, what the hell you think you're doing? We can't keep doing this. You ain't gonna take care of me. You need to be passionate about taking care of me too, so we can take care of Miss McCuddy, so you can keep it in order. And when you keep it in order, then now we have true passion, not this rah-rah stuff you see on T-shirts and social media pages and all that crap, so be careful with that. And I like the other point you made about you and Redmond. That's funny because my dear friend Bobby Halton that passed away, we would have some straight up humdiggers of and but Bobby always ended with like we'll be almost screaming at each other about different, because he's passionate about the way he feels. I'm passionate, and I never did. And David knows this. My brother, I never have been in what I consider a box, like this political box or this social box. I'm in the box of the excellence of what the moment is. And so if that puts me in lockstep with this particular party or this particular social construct for this particular thing that's going on right now, then I'm there. But more, it might be something else. But if it's all because it's right and it's righteous and it's wise, then I try my best to find my home there. I don't try to find my home in association and affiliation, because they're too fickle. And if they're too fickle, and so that's why I was trying to teach with my crews, because if you got that much fickleness in the firehouse, but that's kind of dangerous. And I would think, like if we have different political constructs, a lot of people used to say, well, don't talk about it. Well, I think you need to, because if my life is in your hands, your life, I kind of want to know what you're thinking. Because we do a lot of other intimate stuff. We sleep together, we eat together, we fart around each other. If we got all that going on, I don't think you should be keeping too many secrets about, your dislike for black people or your dislike for white people, or your dislike for people from the north side or the south side, or whatever your line in the sand is. We need to work through that, and figure it out, because we have a David laughs. I say, if I go get Q-tips as the captain, we all going to get Q-tips. So we move as a unit. Yeah. You go get Q-tips at home and say, yeah, well, bring me some mouthwash while you're there. Nobody. You don't take the whole family to Walgreens, but you do take the whole fire truck to Walgreens. Sure. So you got to understand that. So yeah,
but also right quick to wrap that part up too. The thing about making better people is. And is when you get to the part like where he's talking about people are basically passionate about what it looks like to be a firefighter, for instance, or what it looks like to belong to this organization or this belief system or whatever, as opposed to having that grounding compass of being a good person, having that passion for being the most excellent person you can be, and what it would take for you to go in a burning building and get a stranger, like the heart that it takes for that, not just the heart in the sense of bravery, but the heart in the sense of compassion and stuff. When you're that person, then if the thing that you are aligning yourself with, or the person that you're on that team with, if you all start to get off a little bit, that's the thing that brings you back, regardless of what each person thinks or whatever. That's the thing that brings you back to center, is this passion for being a good person, that passion for personal leadership. Everybody commits to that. That's what brings everybody back to where we have more in common and can do more together in a synergistic way than this thing where we are, so divided. That's so dangerous,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's briefly touch on earning respect, which is the third point. I might just hit one point on this. Coaching young officers on balancing authority and humility. How you feel about that?
Well, so being humble is an absolute critical necessity, I think, of any leader. Authority is going to come automatically. If you're promoted to any officer or above, it's given, right? So now we have to work on, well, what are we doing with that power? How are we communicating that power? And when I was thinking about this, one of the things that came up was a quote by C.S. Lewis, and it says, humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less.
Less, right.
It's not thinking less of yourself, thinking of yourself less, which by definition to me is a form of servant leadership. Some would say servant leadership is weak, right? I would say quite the opposite. It takes a very strong man to let his ego down and to admit fault. So in relation to any sort of admission, I think it's important that as you lead, that you're willing to admit mistakes, because that is revealing a little bit of vulnerability, which isn't such a bad thing. You could be over vulnerable. Yes. You could be so admitting everything that you're now working against yourself and building confidence. But every now and then be authentic and transparent. Just be real. That's what I say. That's what authenticity, transparency. Just be real. Drop it, man. Just drop it. We work in a ultra type A environment. And one positive thing about this suicide awareness and PTSD and all that is we're showing a little vulnerability, and that's okay. But it's a balance. Yeah. You guys work a very busy place with a lot of really difficult things that you see and work with in communities that you serve, like most people, right? But you know, the point is, if we do not allow ourselves to be a little bit vulnerable and be willing to empathize with those around us and be humble, right? We're not going to earn the respect of those that we're serving. Part of that respect is not only giving it, but admitting where you fell short, but following up with that excellency of personal leadership that you talk about, where, hey, listen, I messed up, but we are going to get better. I sat in the after action report. We had a Mayday recently at our department, and thankfully everything turned out good. I got a little squirrely for a minute.
Sure.
But, you know, to my knowledge, I don't know that this district's ever faced a Mayday. And so they're doing a pretty deep after action on this. So much so the next 2 months are going to be committed to training on what went wrong and how to fix that. So in light of that, the battalion chief, Chris Kidder, is a really strong battalion chief there. I sat in their after action report for his shift. And they had cycled everybody in, and I sat in it. And it was very refreshing to see him be a little bit humble in that moment. He admitted his faults. He said, hey, this is where I went wrong. But you know what? We are going to get better.
Right.
You had mistakes. I'm here to coach that. But I'm also saying that me, I'm part of that. And I admit it. And, you know, the moment was a little frightening. But we're going to learn from this, and we're going to go hard, and we're going to do all these things so that doesn't happen again. That's respect. I had a lot of respect for him when he stood up and said what he said during that day. And he led the conversation very well. And when he did that, guess what happened to everyone else who showed up?
Yeah, fair.
Okay, well, yeah, I could have done this better.
Yeah, gave permission.
Now we're learning.
Yeah.
Now we're learning because we're admitting it, and we feel, I hate using this term, safe space.
Yeah.
We're in a safe space where we can talk about this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get bawled out about it.
Right.
But people saw it anyway, so you might as well go ahead and admit it.
Yeah. Right. No,
but that's real, because excellence is evolution. You know what I mean? So if you think that you're only excellent when you never mess up or have messed up, you know what I mean? The only reason that you get better is because you've learned from your mistakes, which means everybody makes them. And so you got to give, especially younger folks coming in, the notion that mistakes are going to happen and that they are to be learned from. And you know this from personal experience, and not that you have all, because it's something that's a kind of a mind screw to a person to know the human side of me, but to only see the excellent side of you, to where you never have made any mistakes, but I'm striving to be you, but I'm making human errors. Do you know what I mean? There's something about that is demoralizing to a person. So it's better for them to know.
Probationary guys. It's right there.
Yeah.
So what a great way to start off their career, with
Right.
one of the more respected. I said battalion, he's a district chief. We have district and battalion. So actually it's a little bit more of a weight of, oh, wow, this guy's being
Right.
because he's the chief of the two chiefs, but he ran the incident. And so, yeah, what a profound effect that has on the new people coming in when they see someone who they're kind of, they know from a distance,
Right.
being real. They're like, oh, okay, so I can do that one day when I get to that point as a leader.
Give some permission to understand that part of it.
Yeah.
And step four, you talk about playing the long game. One of the questions I wanted to get from there is explaining the why the change feels empowering and not imposed.
Yeah, man, I think that could go many different ways, right? Explaining the why so change feels empowering. One of the things my brother's always told me is like, man, overstate your why. Always come back and repeat the why behind the mission that we're doing, whether it's a mission or even forms of change. If we over explain and people make the connection to the benefit, right, that's going to be an empowering moment for them because they're going to go with you in the journey and not feel like, well, you're just pushing this on me. So most recent example that, I'm pretty proud to say that I was a part of a change that was bubbling up before I got there, and I was able to help land the plane because I wanted to do this in my old organization, is we got away from the triple layer literally 2 weeks ago. Not even.
Thank
2
God.
weeks ago. Bit of a journey to get away from it. We did. We went to the modified Minuteman bundles using straps. It works out outstanding. But we spent a lot of time explaining the why. And then I brought in Steve Robertson to further land that plane to explain the why, because he's the foremost expert on bundled lines and stretching lines. That's what they do in Columbus. And he does a lot of it. I think all that, right, communicated to people, okay, and let me step back. When we did that, I brought everyone in and I got input first on that. And I explained the why, got your input. That was the first step by it. And once they did that and they got reps, they saw it for themselves. We set up triple layer obstacles, bundled obstacles in 3 or 4 different ways. And I had them run and we did some timing and all this kind of technical stuff. It one, showed them, and two, they were able to give their opinions. I was able to retort those opinions and help to convince the why. And then at one point it was just like, okay, yeah, I'm down. I want to do this. This is our thing. And then when I did the survey, because I did the survey for all the chiefs in the department to give them visibility kind of on like, hey, this isn't an arbitrary decision. There was not one person that dissented, not one on the line, not one. When do you ever hear that? Over 100 firefighters, because I had them all respond. They had to. Nobody disagreed. How does that happen? That's crazy.
Right.
Well, they felt empowered. They didn't feel like it was imposed on them.
Yeah.
And this is 2 years in the making here, right? That's the long game.
Right.
You got to talk. You got to be in the training division and forms of change in the long term, and it takes time, and you got to be patient.
In your step number 5, you say, don't go it alone. Don't go alone. What would you give, kind of advice you would give for new training officers who feel isolated?
What you said at the beginning, you got to find a network. It's not hard on the internet. Like, email me, 850fireman@gmail.com. Give me a call, but I'll shoot you my number instead of saying it on the air. But like, I'm a resource. You're a resource. There's dozens of people that are resources. I reached out just like you to a very wide network of people. And I asked, hey, what are the top 3 things that I need to do in this position? And I got a wealth of wisdom back. Even some people I just didn't even know. I cold messaged them. And guess what? They're going to respond back. That's what we do. We help people. So I think making sure your network is wide so you have perspective. Number 1. Number 2, again, use the internet to your advantage. Do some research. See what other people are doing. It's nothing but a ground of ideas. I'm like you, Larry. I never invented anything. I stole ideas left and right, and I manipulated them. I'm learning to use AI to my advantage to expound on my creativity. Like, there's all kinds of things that you could do. And then lastly, I would say on the outside coming in, that's what we do. And then when you get on the inside, you have to get yourself, if you don't have it. I'm hiring one in my division. We're about to advertise for it, a captain of training to help me. But right now I lean on the 15 or so guys I have on a training cadre. And those are my dudes. Like, I have a go-to group of people. They are keyed in on certain subject matter, and I'm making sure that we're all preaching the same things. So I can't be everywhere at once. I do more administration than I do anything else, and that was somewhat of a surprise, but not very surprising. So I've got to have a force of people. If you do not work to get the right people on that bus with you, this is not a democratic thing, by the way, when you build a training cadre. You got to have those dudes are the hitters. They're into it. They're smart. They know what they're talking about, because everybody talks about everybody. Now, not that they all have to be liked, but I need them to be tacticians at the job. They are the ones they're preaching the street. Like, I'm very much that mind, but I can't be there all the time. So I pick and choose these guys and I empower them. Hey, you're the guy on RIT. Here's all the resources. You tell me what you need and what part you want me to play in your lesson plan. Like, that's freeing. That's freeing for me. I love one of the best things that I never saw coming in this position. I don't know if you guys experienced this, but I have gotten more energy out of watching people grow and succeed, promote, influence, like get platforms and expand. Like, I found, like, man, that's my purpose. I found that as my new purpose in training division, not only getting dudes ready to turn out for a call, but man, when guys, we have another guy in our department that, is teaching an FDIC. That's crazy. We are nobody from nowhere.
Right.
I was lucky enough to get my class accepted this year, and he's working with another group at FDIC. Like, what? I'm super stoked about that. I'm excited about these other guys who are like, hey, man, I want to get more into teaching outside the organization. All right, I know some people. Let me put you in contact with them. Let me get you out there. I love seeing that, and that has been thrilling. But all that to say, that's not going alone. That's the group of people I'm surrounding myself with to be successful and to empower them to hopefully take my seat and do greater things one day is my goal.
Succession planning, yeah. This is not just about your, and I always loved that part of being in the fire service, is that it wasn't about just my department. That's your local, so to speak, but to be part of a bigger universal firefighting family. Getting out there has just really been a huge blessing to me in my career, and help me be a blessing to others, and I love that part of it, like you said. Kind of wrapping things up, what legacy do you want your people to remember, not just the drills, but how you led?
First and foremost, passion for the job is an obvious one, but I hope more people remember my passion for others around them. I hope that people remember my passion for my faith that is lived out in all its faults. What did you say earlier? You said, walk your sermon, not talk your sermon.
Yes.
Sermon walking, not sermon talking.
That's it. That's what I want people to know. That's what I want people to know, that my passion and my motivation and all of that, I hope people remember me as a selfless person and one that wanted to serve to make them better. Because people don't care what you do for them. People care how you make them feel. I want people to feel empowered. I want people to feel excited. I want them to take that, because if you're taking that, you're passing that to the next generation. And guess what? When everyone grows, we rise the tide together. It's not just one or two rising to the top. It's like, hey, the culture is doing this, so we're notching up every year. I hope if we're at 5 right now in South Walton Fire District, I hope when I leave in 10 years, we're at least at 10. You know what I mean? In another 10 years, we're at 20, because people are going to step in and they're going to recall the passion and the things that I did. And hopefully it's a good enough example that leaves a legacy of personnel impact not of things. Hose load is great. Okay, that's great. I want to leave a legacy of dudes that are talking about the leadership we're talking about tonight, the personal development part, because that's so true. I didn't think about that tonight until you said it. Man, everything hinges off of that. Like nothing we're talking about matters if you're not doing it at a personal level first. That's so true. So, anyways, long answer for that question, but I hope that's what they'll remember about me.
No, great answer. That's what, like I said, that's what Dave and I travel around the country doing. You need us down there, let us know. We can help back your play.
Man, I would love to get you guys down. That would be awesome.
And because our that's our mission. That's our love letter to the fire service. That's our mission. I know early on I didn't want to just be a firefighter who just, here's Larry Conley. He worked here at the firehouse. He lived, he died, he paid his bills, he raised his kids. That was it. I wanted to leave something as well. And I was blessed enough to find it after a lot of meditation and prayer and figure out what that is, And I was blessed to have my brother David is the king of production. A lot of times, a lot of people think like, man, you guys. And nobody's actually said you guys are so smart, but they always say something like, "This is really good stuff. Where'd you get it from?" And I'll say, and I'll try to keep it as humble as possible because it's not. It's David and I grew up just role playing and having good time, just playing characters, TV, and making up our own characters and stuff. But when I was in the firehouse and I'm trying to learn about leadership and being promoted as a new officer and all that, and I'm writing all these notes and jotting stuff down, and I'm like, I don't know what to do with this stuff, but there's got to be a better way to do all of it. And so one day it just ended up like this, just full of papers and all kind of notes and all kind of crap like this, and just what do you do with all that? And I gave it to David. And David got some starch and ironed it real good and steamed it. And it came out to, as pretty as it looks when we talk about our things. But I always had a Jerry Maguire moment where I just kind of like we're hitting the mark to a point. I mean, we developing great firefighters. Great firefighters are developing better ways to do our job. Like you said, better hose loads, better deployment, better. That's when the internet started to really kind of take off a little bit, where people was, kind of displaying what their discoveries, and it was great stuff. But we kept missing something, and that I saw from all my years of teaching at the fire academy and running crews, and understand it wasn't so much that these were bad people, because one of the things I used to say when I was the camp director at the Midwest Children's Burn Camp is, don't really ask the question all the time to a kid, what's wrong with you? The question you ask is, what happened to you? And when you ask what happened to them, that's a more compassionate, empathetic look into things, and then you probably get closer to the bottom line. So that's kind of a question I started really asking when I was, a company officer. Not like, what's wrong with you, but what happened to you to make you this way? And then when you start really tapping into maybe how people grew up or what they thought about stuff or their social construct or whatever, then that started to be a better building block to build on. And from there, then we were able to invest more, not just in each other as human beings on our crew, but then that fueled, okay, let's practice this, what we learned on YouTube better. Let's practice this, what we learned at this class better, because now there was in the words, I don't like the word either, but there was a safe space for us we was vulnerable, because we found out in that digging more that we had more in common that we didn't. And that more in common created more of a unity and a union that we didn't want to let each other down. We wanted to be the best, and we wanted to make, whatever proud that need to be proud that particular day. and or that for our time. So that became a family at our firehouse, and I'm glad that we, not just me, but we were able to create that. And a lot of that came from this revelation. So I'm saying that to say is that whatever your revelation is, whether it's leadership, personal leadership, whether it's all of this, your contribution to the fire service, let that be known. Don't be brave enough to share it. And then, but make sure you understand where that foundation comes. I tell used to tell the recruits all the time, say, what kind of business are you in? Fighting fire, sir. When people business. We just happen to have a special set of skills, but we're in the people business, So let's not lose focus that we're in the people business, and we have and continue to sharpen the saw on our special set of skills. And when you put these in the right order, then that's how you become a complete firefighter. A training officer like yourself is able to infuse that as well. And I'm glad to hear that you're doing, Bible studies and things that sort to help feed that character. Man, you're doing a great job of building these firefighters from the inside out. And when you build them like that, you lessen the chances of bad integrity from your crews. You lessen the chances probably of making those ultimate decisions of suicide and self-destruction and things like that. I'm not saying it eliminate, because you don't know what's going on with people, but you can't help but eliminate that people feel like they got more to live for. They feel more value than they feel like I don't have anything, so I'm not connected, And
well, one of the things,
all the time.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but one of the things I didn't say that I wanted to say, and this will be my last thing I'll say, is everybody wants to belong to something bigger than themselves, right?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And you said the people business. Absolutely. It sounds cheesy, but people would ask me, I'm like, I like to help people. But you're right. We just get to do some really cool stuff in that route to helping people. But if we understand as leaders and as officers and chiefs, et cetera, that everybody, whether they want to admit it or not, they want to belong to something bigger than themselves. This is that. That's our purpose. There's no greater purpose in life to get paid if you're a paid firefighter to help people. Are you kidding me? So it's a life's journey for me to carry on that message to others and go, listen, man, get some perspective here. Don't worry about the pension right now. Don't worry about that benefit right now. Worry about the purpose that God's called you to in this job. Not a lot of jobs have that. I never felt that when I worked a burger joint growing up, or I delivered PVC pipes for a landscape company, or I washed cars at Budget Rent-A-Car. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so there's a lot of that out there, but I'm here. I work at an organization where guys get paid very well. Well, I'm here to refocus them and say it doesn't matter your payment, man.
Yeah.
The purpose is way bigger than the benefit you might have chased to get here.
Most definitely.
Much bigger than that. And I'll leave it with this. I think it's super cool you guys do it together as brothers. Larry, you saw where I taught with my brother, and we had a chance to teach together at FDIC, and that was the pinnacle of my career in life, was to be able to teach with my brother about something we're very passionate about.
Yes.
My passion is birthed and passed on from my dad to my brother to me, and I hope to pass it on to his son, my nephew, who's going to work at Escambia County Fire Rescue as a cadet.
Oh, nice.
Like a third generation, man. I'm stoked about that. But there's something very special about you guys working together as brothers, man. I love it. I've experienced a little bit of it, and one day me and my brother are going to do something again together whenever he slows down from being a fire chief.
It's a blessing and a great experience. And the good thing about David and us knowing each other as well as we do, growing up with our experiences, we know what we're going to talk about. It's already mapped out, but we don't have to script the ad libs. We don't have to script I'm like Kurt Warner back in the day when the Rams were the greatest show on turf. I used to tell people, I said, Kurt Warner don't throw it to Isaac Bruce. He throws it to where Isaac Bruce is supposed to be. And high schools know how to beat her to grab it, and that's how they so fast. But if you wait for the ball to get there, it's gonna get intercepted or somebody's gonna read it. So with David and I could throw it, and I know David's gonna be there to catch it, and vice versa, and that's what makes the magic work with us. Cool. So it's kind of a cool. But man, I wanted to tell you, it's been a great experience having you on. I know it's cool over the head you on early, no, but but seriously, thank you for all you do. Your organization, your agency is blessed to have you, and not somebody to just come down there and check boxes and and I'm the training guy, but somebody who's trying to build the integrity from the inside out. We found that out by accident on this very conversation, and I feel like there's there's some guys stuff working for us right there. But man, thank you. We look forward to seeing you on the road, seeing you at FDIC.
We'll be there and catch up.
And definitely catch up and have a root beer. No, but
I like root beer. So
root beer floats, but seriously, keep up the good work. Keep building that organization and those the people in your organization from the inside out, and keep fighting a good fight. And if you need any help from Dave and myself, we'd be happy to go help you out. We've been everywhere from Alaska, Seward, Alaska, to Nairobi, Kenya, and everywhere in between.
Oh, man, that's cool. We got to get South Walton, Santa Rosa Beach, Florida.
Yeah. But Dave, I'm glad. I know what David. I'm gonna say it before David says it. So, because he always said, "Why we always get these North Pole assignments in Butte, Montana, and South?" There's nothing wrong with
Wyoming in January.
But Dave and I are tropical brothers. We like the warm weather. We're
close enough.
Where it's warm,
We get a touch of the four seasons, but here's the deal. If you come down to my department, my brother's going to recruit you. He's about 50, 60 miles away from me to his department. So it's always a 2-for-1.
Yeah. Now, where have we gone in Florida? We went to Sarasota. That's where we went.
Yeah, Sarasota.
That was a great time there. So, but anyway, nonetheless, we look forward to seeing you again. We're going to have you back on one day and get into some more stuff. Maybe have more of the personal leadership discussion too, to kind of dive more into that. So, or maybe we can have the Conley brothers and the Stone brothers. All
that's what you're talking about. You really do need to talk to him about that. My brother's got a lot to say. He does an outstanding class on company officer leadership. So it would be a really good one.
Yeah, so
that would be cool.
The Stones and the Conleys,
Sounds good. Well, hey, when you come down and y'all are here, we'll just sit by his pool with a couple of cold, refreshing drinks.
Yeah, right.
And we could just follow up on this conversation.
Hey, say less.
There it is.
As they say in Game of Thrones, winter is coming, so we're going to retreat. But anyway, everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode. And it's going to be fall is here. We're talking about winter is here. Fall is here. When winter comes, Uncle Larry gets a little depressed because Uncle Larry loves the warm weather and the top down in his Corvette. I can't do that in the winter time. I don't care how much you winter people say winter is great. You can't drive a Corvette with the top down when it's 3 degrees outside and 12 feet of snow. You just can't do it. But anyway, I'll feel blessed that I'm able to experience all the seasons, because there are people out there now that just can't for whatever health reasons or whatever. So I feel blessed with all of it. But tune in another month or so for another exciting episode of the Larry Conley Radio Show, www.gluenationldc.com. By now, most of you, probably all of you, got your FDIC assignments and letters, and those who didn't make the cut this time, come on anyway. We're going to have a great time at the big family reunion in April in Indianapolis. And but stay tuned. Fire Engineering always has great stuff online. And write some articles, contribute, be prime that pump, because the next time you're ready to submit, these kind of things factor into being accepted in the and for the big show. So anyway, come on down. But yeah, check us out. See where the Larry and David are. And remember, we will come to your town. We'll come wherever, especially if it's the South in the next couple of months. Come to this hill here, St. Louis. It's, so if I don't like frostbite, I don't like none of this stuff. So anyway, tropical brother, have whatever, something will travel.
Right.
But anyway, everybody stay safe. Love you. And we'll see you on the next episode of the Larry Conley Radio Show. Thank you and good night.
Prepare, respond, survive. When seconds count, train with the best. Fire facilities, custom steel towers built for real-world fire training. Be ready, be resilient.